Yes, welcome into Sports Bit Betting Insight today. Paulie and Teddy, weekend preview edition. College football is here. Big game breakdown. Hawaii and Cal tonight from Sydney, Australia. You have NFL preseason with the Steelers and the Saints. Great info there. And the Cubs and the Dodgers in Major League Baseball. So we have you covered in big game breakdown. The deep dive as always with the weekend preview. The real info that you need to win with preseason football. And the play of the day, easy winner yesterday with the Rangers. Bad bets, bad beats, bad for the books. How about a vicious beat for Matt Moore? 2 outs in the ninth for the no-no and base hit. 133 pitches, Teddy. Couldn't get it.
Yeah, and 133 pitches is the key factor here. First,
yes,
let's give Moore credit. For a journeyman who has not pitched well at any point this season, he went out through a gem last night. He really did. I mean, we're going to talk about some of the issues the Dodgers have had with lefties later in the show. But the bottom line is Matt Moore pitched really, really well last night. But when you go 133 pitches at his age, at this stage of the season, that is a giant red flag moving forward. Dodgers take one in the chin, I know.
Yep. So they in a game they had to have, too. The Giants avoid the sweep. And I want to see how the Dodgers respond here. Here's another bad beat. It's a bad beat for Clayton Kershaw. Earlier in the day, they trade A.J. Ellis, his personal catcher, top 5 pitcher all time. They don't even ask him. How do you not ask him? You do not mess with chemistry in late August, especially when you're in first place. I don't care if you think you improved. The numbers say you improved because they struggle against lefties, and Ellis has been horrible this year. But that is Kershaw's personal catcher. I hate the move by the Dodgers. This guy was the glue in the clubhouse. And you don't even talk to Kershaw, who cried and was shocked, according to the L.A. Times.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said for that, because chemistry is not something that GMs necessarily are capable of appropriately calibrating, shall we say. And here's a guy who is absolutely known as the locker room glue in L.A. And all right, he can't hit. We know that. The Dodgers aren't a team that struggles to score runs. I would think that chemistry more important than a bat at the bottom of the lineup for LA, but management thought otherwise. I don't know if it's coincidence that just a few hours after he got traded, the Dodgers looked listless and lethargic in that loss to San Francisco.
Yep, good point there. Another bad beat. How about the Mariners? Big favorites on the road with Paxton. What happened?
Well, they're up 3. And then what happens? Well, geez, how about Marte fielding error on a leadoff ground ball in the 7th leads to 3 unearned runs to tie the game, and then a bloop single in the 9th, followed by a sacrifice bunt, an intentional walk, and then a Todd Frazier walk-off single. You know, Paxton threw he gave up 5 singles in the first inning, and then scattered 2 hits the rest of the way. But so he pitched very, very well after getting hit on the elbow in that comebacker, about 3 weeks ago. But now the 3rd straight loss for Seattle. They're 7 back of Texas after the Rangers cashed, as you mentioned, our play of the day with ease last night. They're 4 back of the wild card chase, and the 2 teams right behind them, the Royals and the Astros, are both playing pretty good ball, and the Yankees are only a game and a half behind them. That's a bad loss for Seattle. This is a game that I would expect the last week of the season to be like, oh man, when the Mariners miss out of the playoffs by 1 or 2 games, this will be one they look back on.
How about bad for the books? The 35-cent move on the Tigers. I didn't understand the series price in all 3 games here against the Twins.
Yeah, I mean, the Tigers swept the series by 13 runs, and they were near pick-up to open all 3 games. Detroit's chasing for a playoff spot. Minnesota is one of the worst teams in the American League. They just made bad prices all series. James McCann, bashed a 3-run home run to make it 6-0 in the 3rd, and the Twins were never even in the ballgame. This was a very bad result for the house, because I don't know if there were a whole lot of Minnesota bets yesterday. All Detroit money in that ballgame.
Bad bet. I was shocked by this result. The Blue Jays. Happ finally gets beat, and Weaver shuts down the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays lose 2 out of 3 at home to the Angels.
That's Toronto for you, And they get Joey Bats back. They got Batista back in the lineup. Weaver danced around a whole bunch of base runners early. And the Angels' offense rallied. They were down 2-0 to 6 to win the ball game. So the Blue Jays, bad bet. And Jared Weaver, let's call it what it is. He's pitched better than I thought he could pitch over the course of the last month or two, even in some hitter-friendly hostile environments. We know Weaver's fine in L.A. He hasn't been fine, certainly long-term or short-term, when he leaves L.A. And you put him in a hitter-friendly park, he's been downright lousy more often than not, but he's shown some signs in recent weeks, and he certainly showed some signs yesterday, pitching L.A. to victory in Toronto.
Well, these last 6 games could come back to bite the Blue Jays. They should have swept the Indians. They blew both games in the 8th and the 9th inning, and they come back and lose 2 out of 3 at home to the Angels. That cannot happen. One more bad bet in baseball. Heavy steam on the, not heavy, but steam on the Diamondbacks here. What was that all about?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking. It seems like we talk about this every day on SportsBit, Paulie, where you have a bad team with very little home field edge, priced minus $180, minus $2, minus $170, against a team that ostensibly is worse than they are. But you can't lay that price with the Diamondbacks. $180. This is a team that's 18 games under 500 at home. They're only 300 on the road. They're 18 under 500 at home. And, it was a no-no night, or an almost no-no night. Whistler threw a no-no through 6. The D-backs never in the game. When you're minus 180 chalk and you're never in the game, that is a bad bet.
Only 2 games in the NFL and 1 game we talked about. We understand the line move because there's a lot of people who didn't know the game was being played in Orlando. Dolphins bet down from 3 to pick, but the Falcons were a bad bet, and Matt Ryan stunk.
Yeah, and tons of Atlanta money. I mean, the money poured in on Atlanta. Ryan, he was listless. He was lethargic. He looked about 40 years old. There wasn't a lot of intensity for the Atlanta sideline in this ballgame. He was, 12 of 22 for $129, no touchdowns, an interception, and a passer rating of 53. And the interception, of course, occurred in the red zone. He's kind of stared down Tammy, and it led to an easy pick for Rashard Jones. Kind of like a flashback to last season. He threw 4 red zone picks last year. And let's call it what it is, Paulie. Matt Ryan did not look comfortable, even in year 2 of Kyle Shanahan's offense, despite telling everyone that he did.
Yeah, horrible interception there. A bad beat. Tony Romo goes out 3 plays in.
Yeah, that's a brutal result for Dallas in that regard. Romo last 3 plays. And, and then the issue is not so much that you didn't get Romo, which hurt. But they go into halftime 10-10. But what happens is then the whole QB rotation shifts. Instead of Dak Prescott coming in the second half against the Seahawks backup defenders, now Dak Prescott comes in the first half, and you have Jamil Showers coming in the second half, who did lead a late touchdown drive that ended up being a very, very bad result for the books, Paulie, because we had a middle in Seattle last night.
Oh, yes. Hey, everybody wins. Open 44.5, closed 43. Boom, lands 44.
That is what's known as a middle, and that's a legitimate middle.
Oh, wow.
You could have had 44.5. They were widely available. You could have had 43.5 or 43. They were widely available. Congrats for anyone who cashed that middle. And if you had the over or the under, you're supposed to cash that bet. Doesn't matter which side you had.
Yep, all right. The fun segment there up next. Big game breakdown. We'll start in college football. Cal and Hawaii on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Hey, SportsBit viewers. There's only 5 more days in August, so you're not going to have that many. Maybe Mike Brenner and I will be able to continue our hot picking.
Why wouldn't we be able to,
I don't know, but I got to think the way the first part of August is gone, we're going to keep winning for the rest of August.
First part, it's damn near the 27th,
yeah,
Pete.
Know,
First
that's
part.
What I'm saying. So tune into today's show, Friday, August 26th. There's only going to be a few more shows in August. Get on that train, right, Mike Brenner?
Absolutely, don't miss it. And you guys, this is for Teddy and Paul, right?
Yeah.
Okay, when you guys are all done with them, again, come on down to our house, get the best of both worlds, and beat that bookie.
Back on SportsBit, Paulie and Teddy. Time for a big game breakdown. We made it. College football tonight, 7 o'clock Pacific on ESPN from Sydney, Australia. Hawaii takes on Cal. Cal is 19.5, 64 the total. New era for both teams. Sonny Dykes looked like he was going to leave, but he stays and signs a contract extension through 2019 at the end of last year because he's not going to be very good this year. New offensive coordinator, and they're going to change what they do where it was all Goff, throw it. Here, the new OC, Teddy, wants to mix it up and run the ball a little bit.
Stop for a minute. First, let's celebrate, man. This is a real game. We got, it's been a long summer.
Yeah, you're right.
Preseason football.
Yeah.
This is real. This is a game that counts in the standings, and obviously at this time of year, we all start getting excited about some of these matchups. And no, Cal-Hawaii is not a great game. I don't expect a great game. In fact, this game might be kind of ugly when it comes down to it, because we have two teams that may have some issues on the offense. New offensive coordinator in Jake Spavital, I believe is the way you pronounce his name. He's been at Texas A&M the last 3 years. And it's worth noting, Tony Franklin, who pushed the pace like nobody's business. The departed offensive coordinator, he made a lateral move to Middle Tennessee State in the offseason for personal reasons. But the Texas A&M guy, Spavital, was pushing the pace and saying that Franklin was running it too slow in spring ball. So yeah, there is a lot of focus on the ground game. This team has a really good offensive line and 3 running backs back that all gained 500 yards. This is not, as you mentioned, the Jared Goff air show, but they are expected to play pretty fast. Texas Tech transfer Davis Webb was moved to the top of the depth chart at quarterback, even without being available for spring practice. He brings a running dimension that they want in a quarterback, but that being said, as a graduate transfer, he's coming in for 1 year. He's going to be the guy for Cal on the offensive side, but I mean, they lost their top 6 receivers and the number 1 overall draft choice at quarterback, and they've got a whole bunch of issues on defense too, Paulie, don't they?
Yes, they lost their 2 best players on defense. The linebacker Nickerson transfers to Illinois. Drew, the free safety, has not made it back from injury. Their top 6 tacklers gone from last year, so that's bad news there. And out here in Mountain West Conference country with UNLV, let's be honest. I mean, Norm Chow was a horrible hire at Hawaii, and Hawaii was one of the worst teams in all of college football the last few years. But there's a change here with Hawaii as well.
Yeah, and look, Hawaii made the move from the WAC to the Mountain West in 2012. Since that time, they're 11-39 overall. They're 4-28 in Mountain West Conference play. It's been a rough era for Hawaii football. I don't know that I blame all of that on Norm Chow. I think there have been a lot of problems with Hawaii, but the biggest problem is that their recruiting pipeline, they're getting all those kids from California who are a little bit too small to play in the Pac-12. That pipeline's closed the last couple of years. Those kids have been going elsewhere, and that's why Hawaii has been as bad as they are. That being said, I mean, the media picked this team dead last in the Mountain West, and it wasn't even close. Mm-hmm. They're one of 2 teams in the conference doesn't have a single preseason conference all conference player. Their only all conference player last year, and I'm going to botch his name, the defensive tackle Kennedy. I'm not even going to try to do it. I know. He got kicked off the team in June after pleading no contest to 6 criminal charges. And oh, by the way, their starting quarterback Wolseley, the only player at the position with any D1 experience, he wasn't very good last year. Just 49% of his passes completed.
And this is the worst start to a season in terms of travel you're ever going to see. They go 5,000 miles to Sydney from Honolulu, and then after this game, they go to the Big House and they face a top 10 team that's 4,442 miles away.
That's a little bit of flight time for the Warriors over the next couple of weeks. Now, it's worth noting, look, for the Michigan game, they're bringing a travel roster. For this game tonight in Sydney, it's the entire roster. So if this game gets ugly for Hawaii, we might see some of the guys at the back end of the roster try to get some playing time and get some experience for the kids that won't be traveling to Ann Arbor. But the new head coach, Rolovich, made it very clear he wants to set a tone by not having players complain about travel. Quote, "It's too easy of an excuse to use. It comes too easily out of people's mouths. I don't mention it to our guys. If they bring it up, there's transfer paperwork downstairs if they don't like it. Paradise," meaning Hawaii, "is a miserable place to be unhappy."
Yep, well, good info there. LiveOddsSportsbookReview.com. Game number 2, NFL, the Steelers on the road to take on the Saints. Saints 3, 44.5 the total. All month long on Sportsbet, we've been telling you Mike Tomlin does not care about the preseason. So 0-2 so far. Another week goes by, and 2-13 straight up. 8 losses of double digits. Now 1-6 straight up in ATS over the past 2 preseasons. And he doesn't care about this game tonight, Teddy.
No. And again, over the last 2 years, we've seen that the 1-6 straight up and against the spread. 5 of the 6 losses coming by double-digit margins. Okay, Week 3 regular season walkthrough. Yeah, we got to come play. Well, let's see. Last year they played their regular season walkthrough game against Buffalo. They lost that game 43-19. Big Ben Roethlisberger's going to light them up.
Yep.
Big Ben was 2 of 4 for 30 yards in that ball game. In the 2 years before that, the Steelers went 1-7 straight up and against the spread in the preseason. Tomlin lost his regular season game, walkthrough game to Philly by double digits. And to KC, Andy Reid's not a we got to win coach in August by any stretch of the imagination. And if you think Tomlin gives a rat's ass about winning this or any other preseason game, how about this? They just signed the free agent quarterback Bryn Renner. He's been cut by 4 different teams over the past 2 years. He wasn't even close to winning a job. He was just starting a job as the quarterback coach at Austin Peay at the beginning of August. And he was signed by the Steelers on Saturday. And oh, by the way, he's going to get the lion's share of the snaps on Friday night. Quote from Tomlin: I think he's a quick study. He's got a live arm and he's high energy. It's obvious that he has a love affair with the game of football. All of those things are positive. I look forward to seeing how he responds to the environment more than anything. That's not a we're going to pull out all the stops to win this game because we got crushed the last 2 weeks type of mentality.
Yes. Now, on the flip side here with the Saints, this is wild. One of the worst defenses in NFL history last year. Dennis Allen takes over as defensive coordinator, replacing Rob Ryan. And the urgency is actually on the offensive side of the ball. You look at these comments. Sean Payton, quote, I want to see our first offense be better. I want to see us play better up front and run the ball better. Another one from Ingram. Our first 2 games, we haven't accomplished what we want to accomplish as far as being explosive and moving the ball. What's going on in New Orleans, Teddy?
What's going on is that the defense has actually been okay here in the preseason. It's been the offense, as you mentioned, that has not yet lived up to expectations. And I know that Sean Payton's not a guy who stresses about the preseason. And I know that New Orleans are already taking money in this game. It was -1, -1.5, -2. Those all got bought out yesterday. Now we're looking at -3s across the board. But this is a classic example of a game where one team clearly cares and the other team clearly does not. And that's oftentimes what we look for to make money in the month of August.
Yep. So Major League Baseball now, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Huge series tonight. Cubs in LA to take on the Dodgers. Montgomery against Norris. Cubbies, $1.15, 8 the total. You had the A.J. Ellis for Carlos Ruiz trade yesterday. And Teddy, with Montgomery going, we could see Ruiz right in the lineup here as the Dodgers have struggled against lefties.
Yeah, we sure have. And again, I mean, let's throw some of those A.J. Ellis numbers. Of players, there's 346 players in majors that have at least 160 at-bats this season. A.J. Ellis, in terms of slugging percentage, ranked 345 out of those 346 players. So obviously, he's not a guy who was on the team for hitting. Now, over the last 3 seasons, he has a higher on-base percentage than slugging. All he does is hit singles, and he's the only position player in all of baseball to do that. And the Dodgers, they need more punch against lefties, Paulie. I mean, we said it, and we said it. They showed it again last night. But look at the OPS. It's the biggest team split in the majors this season. Versus righties, a 764. Versus lefties, a 665. And I believe those numbers are from before last night's game, so that OPS is even lower for the Dodgers against lefties now. So Ruiz coming in as an opportunity to get something going, some type of traction against a left-handed starter. To me, that makes sense. Get him on the field.
In the Cubbies, we talked about it yesterday, the run they're on, 19-4, and 3 of those losses, they had a lead in the 8th inning and blew it. Montgomery pitched well in that spot start in Coors, gave up 1 hit in 4 1/3, and here he gets another chance as the bullpen's rested, and Mad's going to throw him in there again. Now, the Dodgers wanted to get Bud Norris out of there. It was supposed to be Kazmir, but he went on the DL, so Norris is back in. 3-3 as a Dodger, but an ERA of 5.67. Last start on Friday, got rocked at Cincinnati. 6 runs in 3 1/3, and they used him out of the bullpen once since then. But again, the big story, no pitching with the Dodgers. Everybody's hurt, so Norris has to
they
go.
Need an arm?
Why?
They need an arm? They got one here.
Yes, right. Up next, real info to help you win in the preseason, NFL, and the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Hey guys, it's that time of year again, football season. And with that, here's a message from everyone's favorite prick.
If you like Captain American football, there's 50,000 dead presidents on the line in this year's Bait the Prick contest. In case you ain't fucking guessed, I'm the prick. Click on the link below for more info. I'm ready to stomp some ass. This is gonna be my best performance yet. So join today. It's free, you fucking squares.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit Weekend Preview Edition. NFL news in the deep dive. Arizona's been horrible so far in the preseason. The GM came out and said we can't just show up week one and expect to win. But how about what the coach and the players are saying, Teddy, as they take on Houston on Sunday?
Yeah, well, let's start with Bruce Arians. He says he expects Carson Palmer to play less than a half against the Texans, and how much of the rest of the starters play will depend on how they perform, but don't expect it to be for more than a half. In other words, some of these coaches, we saw Seattle last night, all their starters back in the field for the third quarter. Not so much for Arizona. Now you look at some of the players' quotes, all right? We say, the Cardinals have looked terrible the first couple of weeks of the preseason. All right, this is a team that has every player on offense who gained a yard or scored a point last season. They're all back. So when you look at the actual player quotes, nobody seems the least bit worried about what's going on and the offense not moving. Carson Palmer, quote, I honestly don't think about the game. I'm focused on the practices and the walkthroughs and the meetings. You're never going to show your hand in the preseason. We've had 15 reps in preseason games. We've had thousands of reps thus far in training camps. We've had tens of thousands of reps together as a unit. That's enough data looking back at all the plays. Last year's team and so far this training camp. That's where you get your confidence and see what you're made of. So, this is a team that's been outscored 50-3 in its first two preseason games. Here's Larry Fitzgerald's quote. What? Yeah, 50-13. Larry Fitzgerald, quote, the older you get, I hate to say, that preseason is drudgery. Obviously, you have to go out and play, but it doesn't mean anything in the standings. The Detroit Lions, then when they went 0-16, they were 4-0 in the preseason. Those are not bet-on quotes from the Arizona Cardinals.
That is a dynamite quote out of Fitzgerald. Money quote there. Now with the Texans, Teddy, huge issues, big problems on the offensive line.
Yeah, and the offensive line issues for Houston, this is something that I think is going to be a bigger deal when the regular season rolls around than it might be right now. Because, look, they just lost Nick Barton. He was expected to start. He's their starting center. The rookie, he's now out for the season. The left tackle, Dwayne Brown, he's not going to play week one, and he may have to go on the PUP list, physically unable to play list. He tore his quad muscle in week 17 last season, and there have been several reported setbacks. The rehab is going slowly, and if he starts on the PUP list, he's going to miss the first 6 games of the season. You have the right tackle, Derek Newton, battling a lingering hamstring injury. So if the season started today, the Texans offense would only feature 2 returning starters, and that is a rarity in the NFL.
You have the Lions, and up next, Detroit. Caldwell likes what he's seen from the offense so far. He just wants to see more of it as an efficiency and more points, Teddy.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit on yesterday's show about some of the cluster injuries in the Baltimore Ravens secondary. All right. Well, you put that together with this Detroit Lions information, where there's a lot of emphasis here on putting the biscuit in the basket. The first-string offense has shown some effectiveness. They've only reached the red zone twice, but it fumbled the ball twice and scored just 3 points in those red zone drives. Now, in this game against the Ravens on Saturday, the first-string offense is expected to play the entire first half. And Jim Caldwell, quote, we just haven't been able to finish drives like we've wanted to. We've moved the ball up and down the field fairly well. So this is a chance for Detroit to prove they can finish drives against a team with a depleted secondary. Oh, by the way, the Lions are underdogs. They're not small dogs either.
Yep.
They're 3.5 point dogs against Baltimore.
The Colts take on the Eagles, and how about this? Severely limited at cornerback. That's an understatement. Brown, Smith, Mitchell, Davis, Robinson, and Cromartie all won't play, and they also have other injuries, especially at the right tackle.
Yeah, and the main concern is at the cornerback position. Chuck Pagano made it clear. His quote, we're going to get creative at the position. I don't know exactly what that means. It means they're going to switch guys over. Maybe it means they blitz a little bit more. But the bottom line is when you have cluster injuries, and this is one of the things we talked about in our preseason overview prior, this is what we look for. All right, here's a Pagano quote. It makes it tough, but we got to go. That's why we challenge every one of these guys that comes through here to prepare like starters, because it's next man up. You guys get tired of hearing me say it, but it's reality. If some of these guys thought I was kidding, thought we were kidding, we were lying about next man up, they're going to get a big dose of reality if they haven't already, because they're going to trot out there. At least 13 players for Indy aren't going to go against the Eagles, and it could be 14. The starting right tackle, Joe Reitz, is dealing with tightness in his back. That's kept him out of practice for the last couple of days. And if Reitz doesn't play, that may also shorten Andrew Luck's time on the field for Indy.
Great to talk football. Easy winner yesterday with the Rangers in baseball. Money time. Play of the day. Remember earlier in the week we gave out Oakland, Tennessee under 43.5. That's now, was 42 now? 42 and a half?
Yeah,
That's
42 and a half. Yes, it's going down.
Yeah, it's going down. Okay, so where are we going, Teddy?
Well, this one's going up, and that's Colts-Eagles over.
Yeah.
The number's at 44 right now as we record Sportsbit today, Paulie. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it continues to go up between now and kickoff, because the Indianapolis Colts have cluster injuries in their secondary. And the Indianapolis Colts have a lot to prove on the offensive end of the field. No weather, fast turf. Expect a high-scoring game. Look for the Colts and the Eagles to go over 44. Yes. That's our play of the day.
All right, it's football season. Tell your family, tell your friends. Gather around. Great info on SportsBit. We're here 5 days a week. SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Have a good weekend. Back Monday.